All righty, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Countless Vlogcast. I'm your host, Justin Rich. My guest today, Nikia.Edwards, mental health professional. Today, we're going to talk a little about ways to cope and ways to find therapy and a little more. All right. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. So tell us about yourself.
My name is Dr. Nikia.Edwards. I am a licensed professional counselor for the state of Virginia. I am also a certified substance abuse counselor. I'm a national certified counselor as well as a approved clinical supervisor. I have a PhD in counselor education and supervision. I specialize in substance abuse, clinical supervision, as well as treatment and services for minorities. And I also enjoy working with the young adult population.
Great. So, personally, how has going to therapy helped you out from a personal standpoint? I mean, as a mental health professional, as like a woman.
As a mental health professional, I seek therapy as well as clinical supervision when I'm experiencing troubles, whether it's in the office or outside of the office. And personally, as a woman, I seek counseling and therapy services through my own therapist. And then I also have my circle of tight knit friends that I go to for support. And we call that kind of our sister girl therapy. So I seek out therapy throughout my daily life, whether it's implementing coping skills that I have learned as a student, as a client of mental health services, or even just things that my girlfriends may suggest. And then, of course, there are things that I get from my spiritual guidance and, of course, from my mom.
Great. So, why would you recommend therapy to somebody out there that may be against it or substance abuse? Though, when's the time for somebody to get help?
A time for someone to get help with their if they're experiencing any difficulty making decisions, needing to release emotion or thoughts, if they are needing to just have a sounding board. A lot of people think that mental health services are only for when you're in crisis or when you're having an issue or when you have been deemed a problem. But mental health services are used for a number of things. So I would suggest that people seek out therapy at any time that they need a different voice or a different point of view of seeing things that are happening in their life, a different opinion on how to navigate life, daily life, whether it's stressors or whether it's just day to day getting through the day.
Great. So, what are some issues you find in the Black community that are prevalent?
One of the things that I found in the Black community that is prevalent is based off of the question you just asked me. Why do I need to seek therapy? There are another number of reasons why some persons in the Black community don't seek therapy, and it's rooted in our history in terms of lack of trust. Lack of trust for the medical system, lack of trust for the community based services, as well as you know, what we have going on now today in our society, a lack of trust with our police enforcement. So all of these entities are associated to some degree, whether directly or indirectly, with seeking mental health services. We get our perception of mental health services through television as well as through other people's stories. We always see sometimes it's portrayed as the worst, whether someone's not getting treatment, whether someone's getting treated unfairly. So there's a lot of stigma as well as fear of embarrassment, fear of not being treated in the manner that they should be treated, fear of being misdiagnosed, fear of being over medicated, or just the thought that the only way that I can be assisted and helped is through medication.
Great. So, as a professional, what are some ways you suggest to cope with these issues and
One
methods to improve?
one of the ways that I suggest is to be educated. And I want to thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this effort here, because myself and all of the other professionals that you have invited to do this are doing exactly what the first line of getting to the root of things is, and that is becoming educated. Speaking with those who are in the profession already, I know that a number of people have been asking to speak with as well as meet with people who look like them. So getting educated about what the mental health system is and is not, and then, becoming continuing to educate yourself about the mental health system, because it is a system that can be complicated. So that would be my first coping. The next would be is to make sure that you have a support system. And sometimes that may be people who are not related to us, who don't share our same DNA. It may be a friend. It may be a teacher or someone else that may not be connected with us in our family lines.
Right. So one of the issues we all face every day is race. So what are some ways you'll help patients and your clients with dealing with race issues?
One of the things that I have worked on with some of my clients who have come to me recently is bringing the focus back to them and how they perceive themselves, and reinforcing who they are, helping them to identify who they are, helping them to start that journey, reinforce that journey, and helping them to identify what it is that they are feeling, as well as helping them to process what they're feeling through the dealing with racism and how it has and will impact them emotionally, mentally, as well as spiritually, and for some, even physically.
Wait, so with so much going on with COVID and Black Lives Matter protests and policing and all that, what are some ways people can receive therapy in the virtual age?
Well, one of the ways that they can receive it is by way of exactly what we're doing now. We have telehealth services, or telemental health, telepsychiatry, it may be called. And basically, what it is having therapy services through technology assisted services. So right now we are on a video conferencing type platform. So a lot of telehealth services are being done through video conferencing. Telephonic sessions are also considered telehealth. While I, at my practice, Abundant Solutions LLC, does not engage in text messaging and emailing, it is considered a form of telehealth services. So you do have a number of services that can assist persons who are in need of mental health services during this time of social distancing, and those who are just not ready to do in-person, face-to-face services.
Yeah, another issue people may face is unemployment too. So what are some ways people can pay for it? Resources out there people can pay for their session.
Of course, yes. There are some providers who do offer pro bono services, which means that the services are free. We are giving of our services to those who may not be able to afford it. At my private practice, Abundant Solutions LLC, I do provide pro bono services. It's based off of a person's income and case by case basis. We do have a sliding scale fee that we use. We do offer pro bono services, and it is usually based on income and family size. In addition, excuse me. In addition to that, I myself have started the Virginia Black Therapy Fund, which actually the goal of that fund is to provide free mental health services to persons of color. Our goal is to provide free services to 100 persons from the people of color. The fund is supported by those in the community, people like myself, yourself, and anyone who wants the support. So we are asking that any licensed persons of color to sign up to be providers of this service so that we can provide free mental health services. So while there may not be many providers, whether community-based or private practice providers that provide free services, we can do things like create venues for those who can receive free services, such as the Virginia Black Therapy Fund. So if you're interested in providing support, getting services for yourself, or as a licensed professional getting involved, you can contact me and I will provide that information for you.
Great. So you just talked about a great program too. Also, too, virtual therapy too. But what are some of the other ways therapy has changed over the years, mental health industry and overall?
Some of the ways that I have seen it in my experience change is that it is becoming more of a popular, if you will. I don't want to say trend, but the people are talking about receiving mental health services as well as seeking mental health services more than they did when I first got involved in this field, going on over 20 years ago. When I first started, it was a big stigma, especially for the Black community, especially for communities of color, to seek out mental health services. As well as to be known to have received mental health services. Now it is more common to hear that, yes, I'm seeing my pastor, or I'm seeing my guidance counselor, or I saw my therapist the other day, or I need to schedule to see my therapist. It's becoming a bit more common, yet there is still stigma attached to receiving therapy counseling services because of the societal stigma that we still have attached to the mental health field overall, but receiving mental health services and being deemed as a person with issues or a person with problems. So it has evolved, it has changed. I do know that there are a lot more clinicians of color who are involved in this field and doing more innovative and creative things to help attend to the population overall, but particularly the populations of color and those who are underserved and those who are unaware of mental health services being a benefit to their overall health.
Right. So going to therapy is one issue, but what happens after therapy too? How do people improve themselves after therapy session?
One of the things that I stress to my clients is that when we meet, that time is actually their time. I am there to serve them. So how they use that time is up to them. And one of the things that I encourage is that we engage in a relationship together where they are able to learn for themselves, not just from me, because I learn from my clients as well, what best fits them, what is realistic for them, what are some effective realistic coping skills that will work for them when they return to their environment, when they're outside of the office, because things can work well in the office. But is that realistic for you outside of the office in your day to day? So I'm really working on and stressing during our sessions, identifying those coping skills and those mechanisms that can be realistically applied in their daily life, so that they are more readily to implement those coping strategies when the time comes, if they need to implement those strategies.
Okay, great. So one issue that's been going on for like the last couple of months now during the pandemic is the policing and mental health issue. So can you talk a little about ways we can work around the police or mental health issues? Say somebody's in distress or out there, and somebody calls the police. Instead of calling the police, what can they do to help somebody out? What can they call?
Well, here in the area that I do live in, and that is the Hampton Roads area of Virginia, we do have where there is a crisis hotline through the Community Services Board, where they will have someone that can come out and speak with the person. Now, typically, the department is called Emergency Services, and not always does the police get dispatched with emergency services, but they are a resource to be contacted should there be a situation in the community where someone who is experiencing mental health crisis or having difficulty navigating what is going on with them emotionally or mentally, and they need a resource. There are also programs through the community-based programs as well as the Community Services Board that provide peer support services. And peer support services are persons who are currently, as well as in the past, have received mental health services that volunteer their time, and some of them do eventually become employees of those particular agencies, but they do provide time, support, and assistance to those persons in the community who may be going through difficult times, experiencing mental health crisis, and things of that nature. And then also, there is the National Suicide Prevention Line that is a mental health resource for persons experiencing mental distress or difficulty coping at the time. There's a hotline number that they can call that's 24 hours a day. It is in English and Spanish, and they do have a text line for that as well. They also have a specific veterans crisis line through that particular phone number as well. And they also, NAMI, which is the National Association for Mental Illness, also has a support line that people can tap into and connect with someone who will talk with them and assist them during their time of need.
Great. So in this the normal and pandemic, what are some ways people can move forward with their lives to and better their lives? What are some ways people can forward to the future if they're like stuck or they're feeling frustrated now?
One of the things that I do myself and that I do encourage family and friends as well as clients that I serve is to stay connected. Stay connected with persons, loved ones, and persons who are going to be supportive and encouraging. I wouldn't encourage staying so connected to social media or television that kind of reinforce kind of this doom and gloom of what is going on in our current society. But the most important thing that stands out for me and that is helpful for me and that I've received feedback from clients that's been helpful is staying connected and scheduling some time to make sure that you stay connected with others so that you are reinforcing the natural order of things that we need connection with others in order to, engage and feel alive, important, and cared about, and be able to care for others as well.
Great. So for those that go to therapy, it doesn't work for them, maybe the first couple of sessions, what are some resources out there they can use for outside for like coping for themselves outside of therapy?
Well, for those persons who struggle with therapy, especially those who are going to therapy for the first time, I always encourage people. We are providers that work for you. Again, as I said before, when my clients are in my office, I am there to serve them. So if you are with a provider that you just don't feel connected with in the first couple of sessions, you reserve the right to terminate that service with them and find a provider that you can connect with. It is perfectly okay to do that. We do that with anything else. We make sure we pick the right apples. We make sure we pick the right vegetables. We make sure we pick the right TV, the right car. Why would we not make sure that we select the most appropriate person for us to attend to our most intimate parts of ourselves, that being our mind, our spirit, and our feelings. So I encourage those who are struggling initially to make sure that you give yourself permission to seek out someone else that may be that you may be able to connect with more. If that does not work, then I would definitely look into some mentoring programs. They do exist for young people as well as adults. I would suggest seeking out spiritual advisors. And I say spiritual, not religious, because not all people are religious. There are spiritual advisors that can be sought out to be able to speak with them in terms of being able to get out thoughts and feelings almost similar to what you would do in a therapist's office. So those are some areas that I would suggest and recommend that people explore to see what works best for them.
Great. So, in terms of substance abuse, too, what are some ways you find that lead to substance abuse in your clients?
Most of my clients have, those who I have served, have turned to substance use due to inability to cope, as well as not having the effective coping strategies that are healthy that benefit them. So, in terms of those who do use substances, it's a matter of their way of coping. And for them, they have found it to be helpful at the time, but then not able to recognize the not so good consequence that come from continued and ongoing use of substances, and that does include alcohol.
Right. So, you talked about you were specialized in trauma too. So, what are some ways we can like deal with like childhood trauma too? Because a lot of people don't want to go to therapy until it's like too late too. So, what's it's like? Is there a certain age we can go to therapy at that will like help us out into adulthood, or is there like certain like outlet we can use before adulthood to help us with comes to trauma?
Yes, therapy can be started as soon as the person is deemed appropriate to engage in therapy. We have persons who specialize in working with children. We have persons who specialize in working with young toddlers as well. So it is a decision that the family has to make. The difference with working with young people versus the adults is that the caretaker has to be on board and willing to get that young person some assistance. Um, Young people, I know here in Virginia, at the age of, I believe it's 12, it's either 12 or 13. And don't quote me on that, I'll have to look that up later, that they're able to seek services on their own through mental health services on their own. It's different in every state what the age is. Um, but in terms of those who are much younger, we definitely would have to have the caretaker, the guardian, or parent to seek out those services for that child. There are services within the school. They are school based services, including school social worker, school guidance counselor, the school psychologist. Their area of focus is more academically and more in social skills areas rather than the clinical mental health areas. However, they are a starting point with helping a young person to get the services that they need. However, again, it would still require an adult guardian's permission for that young person to engage in such services.
Okay, great. Since you work with a lot of youth, though, a lot of them use social media too. So you talk about the effects of mental health and social media too, both positive and negative.
Can you repeat that, please? I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah, like the effects of mental health on the youth in a
The,
negative way and a positive way.
yes, one of the things that I have found in with having a 16-year-old and a 21-year-old, I've had a lot of youth come to my home. And just to hang out with my children, but also because they know what I do for work, and when they're here, I usually check in with them. And one of the things with mental health, with a lot of young people that I have had the experience with, is that sometimes it's just the opportunity for them to engage in at least talking about how they feel and what they're thinking. It's not presented. So a lot of times the younger people are not going to come to an adult or an older person and talk about, I'm not feeling so well. I'm feeling down. I'm feeling depressed. I do have suicidal thoughts. I am thinking about, using drugs to cope because I can't deal with school or deal with other areas. So sometimes it takes the initiative of the caretaker, the person responsible for that young person, to routinely check in with that young person and ask them specific questions. How are they feeling? How is school going? Stay connected with them, have some type of involvement in what is going on in their lives, and making that more of a routine thing that happens rather than a reactionary thing that happens because something has occurred in that young person's life or in our society. So if we as caretakers and adults attend to our youth regularly, then attending to their mental health issues and being able to possibly pick up on things that may not be what the norm is for that particular young person may be a bit easier for the interaction to talk about mental health with that young person. Now, some of the not so good things with social media and mental health with their young people is that there are a lot of things just like things outside of mental health that influence our young people, the different challenges that are going on, the different packs that the young people are gravitating towards, the different even the bullying as well as the body shaming and different things. Social media is being used to perpetrate things that increase stressors, that increase anger, that increase isolation, that increase exclusion for our young people. And social media is quick. It's one of the quickest ways to have information spread, whether we're talking about mental health or anything. So our young people are very tech savvy and social media savvy, and it's the way that they communicate with each other for, for fun things as well as the not so good things. So social media can be helpful as well because there are a lot of resources that are out there. There are a lot of support groups that occur through social media. There are a lot of meetup groups that assist our youth with talking about their mental health and getting their feelings out and having the support that they need to cope and recover. So it goes both ways. Again, it's about what that young person is in need of, is seeking, and is able to find. But again, if we have the caretakers and the guardians, the persons responsible for the young person, to really hone in on what is going on with their young person, checking in with them regularly, then we can be in a more proactive stance than a reactive stance with our youth.
Great. So we talked earlier about a lot of people don't want to go to therapy, especially youth, because they don't see person of like their color, skin color. So if you could recommend like somebody out there maybe interested in studying psychology and becoming a therapist, could you give them some advice, please? And those studying actually in college now studying to be a professional.
Yes, those of you who are looking to embark on entering the mental health arena, whether it's as a psychologist, whether it's as a social worker, whether it's as a clinical mental health counselor, I encourage you to first and foremost do it. You are needed, you are wanted. There are a number of avenues that you can partake once you get into the field. My suggestion would be that you connect with someone who is already in the field, such as myself. I do mentorship for students, high school, as well as undergrad and graduate students, as well as doctoral students. I do mentorship to link with someone already in the field who can act as a guide for you to educate you about what options there are, what schools to attend, help you to make decisions about what avenue that you do want to study. Is it psychology? Is it social work? Is it marriage and family therapy? Is it clinical counseling? You want to be able to have some guidance with that. So one, you don't waste your time. Two, you don't waste your money. And three, you want to get all that you can from the field from the beginning, because this field is very vast. There is a lot to learn, but if you are aware of what you want to do ahead of time, it can be rather rewarding from beginning to end.
Great. So I just want to thank you for coming on. To before we go to, could you give advice out there to people struggling through unemployment, mental health, and this overall, this words of encouragement? That'd be great.
A word of encouragement is that you are, I know this may be cliche to say, but you are not alone. There are others out there who are struggling and stressing as you are. And as I said before, my encouragement would be to stay connected. Let someone know what is going on so that they could be of a support to you. And don't be afraid to reach out for support that is out there in the community that could assist with cash assistance, that can assist with food, that can assist with other things that are needed to assist with getting by at the time. There are social services, there are churches, there are other organizations that, especially during this time, that are offering help and support to those who have been affected by the pandemic through unemployment, through lack of childcare, and things of that nature. So, my encouragement, as I would tell my clients, is ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help so that you can get the support that you need.
Right. Thank you again for coming on, sharing experience and advice out there to people that may need it. Thank you again, Doctor.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. And for those who want to reach me, you can reach me at www.abundantsolutions.llc.com. And I can always be reached at Nikia.edwards at abundantsolutions.llc.com. And I will give Justin my information so that you guys can reach me if you're able to catch that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. It's been the Countless Vlogcast with your host, Justin Rich. Make sure you guys subscribe on YouTube, Countless Vlogcast, and make sure you guys rewatch this again. And out there, get help you need. And thank you guys for watching. Have a good night.
Thank you.